the cursed well of Bhairavpur in the arid expanse of Rajasthan. About 60 kilometers from Jaisalmer lies the small village of Bhairavpur, a place where time seems to have stood still. The village, with its mud brick houses and sun-scorched fields, was known for its isolation, surrounded by endless dunes and thorny acacia trees. At the heart of Bhairavpur stood an old stone well, its walls weathered by centuries of wind and sand. The villagers called it Bhairav Kuan, the well of Bhairav, named after the fierce deity Bhairava, a form of Lord Shiva associated with protection and destruction. But the well was no place of worship. It was feared, avoided, and spoken of only in hushed tones. The story of the well's curse began over 100 years ago, in the late 1800s, during a time of great drought. The village was on the brink of collapse, its crops withered and its people desperate. A wandering sadhu, a holy man with matted hair and ashes-smeared skin, arrived in Bhairavpur and promised to bring water to the parched land. He performed a ritual at the well, chanting mantras and making offerings to the spirits of the desert. Miraculously, the well, which had been dry for years, began to fill with water. The villagers rejoiced, believing the sadhu had invoked divine blessings. But the sadhu warned them. The water was a gift from powerful spirits, and the well must never be defiled. No one was to draw water after sunset, and no offerings other than those prescribed milk, ghee, and marigold flowers were to be made. For years, the villagers followed the sadhu's instructions, and the well provided sweet, clear water. But greed and superstition crept in. Some began to believe the well was a source of hidden treasure, guarded by spirits. Others whispered that the sadhu had bound a malevolent entity to the well, and its power could be harnessed for personal gain. One night, a group of young men, driven by a mix of bravado and greed, defied the taboo and attempted to dig beneath the well's stones, hoping to uncover riches. The next morning, they were found dead at the well's edge, their faces frozen in expressions of terror, with no visible wounds. The water in the well turned blood red for 3 days, and a low wailing sound echoed from its depths at night. From then on, the well was considered cursed, and the villagers abandoned it, building a new well on the other side of the village. Fast forward to 2003. Meera, a 24-year-old journalist from Jaipur, heard about the legend of Bhairav Kuan while researching rural folklore for a magazine. Fascinated by the story, she decided to visit Bhairavpur to investigate. Meera was a rational woman, educated and skeptical of superstitions, but she had a deep respect for the stories that shaped rural life. She arrived in Bhairavpur on a blistering June afternoon, staying with a local family, the Jagdishis, who ran a small guest house for rare visitors. The family was warm but visibly uneasy when Meera mentioned her interest in the well. Mrs. Joshi, a stern woman in her 50s, warned her to stay away, recounting the tale of the young men and other incidents, a shepherd who went mad after peering into the well at night, and a child who vanished after playing too close to its edge. Undeterred, Meera convinced a local boy, 16-year-old Ravi, to guide her to the well. Ravi was reluctant but agreed for a small fee, insisting they go during the day. The well was a 20-minute walk from the village, surrounded by a desolate patch of land where nothing grew. The structure was imposing, its stones carved with faded symbols that Meera couldn't decipher. The air around it felt heavy, and a faint, metallic smell lingered. Meera took photos and jotted notes, noticing that the well's mouth was covered with a rusted iron grate, likely to keep people out. Ravi, fidgeting nervously, urged her to leave, saying the place felt wrong. Meera brushed off his concerns, but as she leaned closer to inspect the grate, she heard a faint sound like a whisper or a sigh coming from the well's depths. She froze, chalking it up to the wind, but the desert was still, not a breeze in sight. That night, back at the Joshi guest house, Meera couldn't sleep. The family had retired early, and the house was silent, except for the occasional creak of the wooden roof. Around 2 a.m., she heard it, again the same whispering sound, now clearer, like a voice calling her name. She sat up, heart racing, and checked her recorder, thinking she might have left it on. It was off. The whispers grew louder, now accompanied by a rhythmic tapping, like fingers drumming on stone. Meera grabbed her flashlight and stepped outside, thinking it might be an animal or a prank. The village was dark, the stars obscured by a strange haze. The tapping seemed to come from the direction of the well, though it was too far to hear clearly. Against her better judgment, Meera felt an inexplicable urge to return to the well. She didn't tell anyone, not wanting to alarm the Joshis or seem foolish. Armed with her flashlight, camera, and a small notebook, she trekked back to the well under the cover of darkness. The desert was eerily quiet, the usual nocturnal sounds absent. As she approached the well, the temperature dropped sharply, and her flashlight began to flicker. The whispering returned, now distinct. A low chant in a language she didn't recognize, rising and falling like a prayer. Meera's rational mind screamed at her to turn back, but her curiosity and something else, a pull she couldn't explain, kept her moving forward. At the well. The iron grate was ajar, though she was certain it had been sealed earlier. The chanting grew louder, and now she saw a faint, bluish glow emanating from the well's depths. Her hands trembled as she aimed her flashlight down, revealing nothing but darkness. Then, something moved, a shadow, humanoid but distorted, its limbs too long, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. It seemed to climb the well's walls, its movements jerky and wrong. Meera stumbled back, dropping her flashlight, which went out. The chanting stopped, replaced by a guttural laugh that echoed around her. She felt a cold, invisible hand brush her arm, and her camera strap tightened around her neck, as if pulled by unseen fingers. Screaming, Meera tore free and ran, not stopping until she reached the village. She burst into the Joshi house, waking the family. Mrs. Joshi, seeing Meera's disheveled state and the scratches on her arm, immediately called the village priest. The priest, an elderly man with piercing eyes, performed a ritual with sandalwood paste and mantras, declaring that Meera had angered the entity in the well. He instructed her to leave an offering of milk and marigolds at the well's edge at dawn and never return to Bhairavpur. Meera complied, shaken to her core, and left the village the next day. Back in Jaipur, Meera tried to process what happened. Her photos from the well were corrupted, showing only static or dark smudges. Her recorder, however, captured snippets of the chanting, faint, distorted voices that linguists she consulted couldn't identify. For months, she had nightmares of the shadow in the well, its featureless face staring at her. She never published the story, fearing it would invite more attention to the well. Years later, she learned from a colleague that Bhairavpur had been partially abandoned after a series of strange incidents, livestock dying, wells drying up, and villagers reporting whispers in the night. Asterisk, the well still stands. Untouched. It's great now, bolted shut. Travelers passing through Bhairavpur are warned to avoid it, and locals say the chanting can still be heard on moonless nights. A reminder of the price of disturbing what lies beneath. Asterisk.